Internet creepypastas. Like actual pasta, they come in all shapes and sizes. For every linguine that's a Russian sleep experiment, there's the fusilli that's Jeff the Killer. You got your fettuccinis, your orechettes, your ziti's, your bucatinis, your lasagna, your penne, and the list goes on and on and on. And eventually you just go, Mamma mia, there's a lot of pasta. Out of all of them though, only one stands supreme in my eyes, the classic and iconic spaghetti. But if you were to ask me what my favorite creepypasta was, then I'd say it was the classic, iconic, revolutionary, and timeless SCP Foundation. But if SCP is the equivalent to the most universally recognized pasta shape on the planet, then I think the rigatoni comes in at a close second. And the pasta I associate with that pasta is the Slender Man creepypasta, which in a way comes close to what the subject of this video is actually going to be about. Marble Hornets. Created by Troy Wagner and Joseph Delage in June of 2009, the series is often credited as being the one responsible for the Slender Man's rise in popularity from its origins as a photoshopped creation for an internet spooky contest. It also gave the Slender Man many of the attributes that they're known for today, and one could argue that the series is the inspiration that ignited people to use the internet's inherent interconnectivity as a vehicle for exploring storytelling opportunities, one that can reach an audience in a way a movie or anything else couldn't. It also helps that, in my opinion, it was pretty good. To bring this pasta metaphor together, if the original photos were the wheat of the Slender Man, the Marble Hornets is the actual process of turning that limp piece of wheat into a strong, rigid, and versatile string that you can buy at your local grocery store. For context, this series is about 15 years old, and it started literally 10 days after the original post, so the duo had their fingers quite literally on the pulse of this dapper boy. I was literally about 9 to 10 years old when Marble Hornets began. It was only when I was in university back in 2021 did I get re-exposed to it, so to speak. Now that I have a YouTube channel, I figure I'll use it to talk about the first season of Marble Hornets, and do my best to be as coherent about my thoughts on it as possible. If I feel like it, maybe I'll eventually do the other seasons, I don't know. Before I begin, if you haven't seen the series yet, I highly recommend you do so. You can watch it all on YouTube, and there's even playlists of every video in order of release. As always with these kinds of things, let's start at the beginning. The first video, titled Introduction, pretty much tells the premise as plain and simple as you can get. Jay Merrick creates a YouTube channel to document his investigation into a cancelled student film by Alex Crayley, Marble Hornets. All of this is told to us through white text playing over B-roll of the landscape, with the only audio playing being the sounds of the car driving on the open road. There's something almost hypnotic about the sound, with no music playing or any voices in the background. It almost feels like a calm before the storm, a brief moment of respite before the darkness would begin to encroach. It's also defining the style of what the rest of the series would be, but more on that later. On the same day, Entry 1 would be uploaded, featuring the first appearance of the Slender Man, and hot damn is it a perfect appearance. The way the camera moves from the shadow to the creature, that last second where it turns to look at the camera before the footage ends, it's a damn near excellent way to show how the monster is going to work in video format. From here on, entries 1 through 9 would be uploaded when Jay notes connections between the ramping of Alex's behavior, him filming himself at all times, and the seemingly constant harassment from the star of the show. As obvious as this sounds, these early videos are actually some of the most important ones in the entire series, as they establish the style of the videos themselves as short vignettes that tell a lot in very little time. It doesn't get more short-form storytelling than having a video that's sub 5 minutes. Through raw creativity, Wagner and Delage are able to adapt the Slender Man creepypasta for a different medium in a way that honors the original's foundation and ambiguity. And nowhere is this more apparent than how the video and audio distorts in its presence. It's one thing to be able to not properly see what's happening, but since we can't hear what's happening as well, we lose a crucial source to truly understand what's happening, hence there is tension, intrigue, and a mystery. However, this isn't perfect, for as much as Entry 1 completely nails the vibes first try, later showcases of the Slender Man as it interacts with the physical space flexes between perfect and imperfect. Some shots make the monster look menacing, and some you can tell that it's just a guy in a suit. And sometimes the audio distortion can kind of backfire, and you end up feeling more annoyed than paranoid by it. There's also another issue to contend with, but that largely depends on your taste. The acting for the series is not the best? Well, at least not always unintentional. Anytime one of the entries showcases what the actual Marble Hornets student film would look like, it's presented as unironically bad and pretentious, in a way any student film made by a sappy auteur like Alex Crayley can be. Auteur like Alex Crayley can be.
I don't know. This town just doesn't feel the same to me anymore. I missed it so much when I was in college. But now that I'm back, I just feel like a depressed teenager all over again. Stuck in a loop of unhappiness.
But whenever the series would try to actually have serious acting, it ranges from nothing super noteworthy to, Entry 9. It's not a bad entry by any means, but this entry is 100% actual film students acting like fictional film students, and the results are more interesting than they are bad. Of course, nothing beats the iconic director Alex's tirade on poor Seth.
Well, did you not have it recording during the break? I told you to keep the camera recording at all times. One job. All you're supposed to do was come in here, set up the camera, make sure it doesn't fall over, and press record once. How clear do I have to make it before you listen? I mean, you brought your dog!
Besides some early hiccups, the early days of Marble Hornets still hit hard through the at-the-time fresh ideas and solid execution generally across the board. The series could have continued to coast on this for the rest of its lifespan, but after the still legendary Entry 9,
That's real nice.
Who else is gonna work with you with this attitude?
things start to get interesting. Using the now-defunct YouTube video reply feature, Marble Hornets throws a twist into the story by introducing To The Ark, a separate YouTube channel that would create cryptid videos containing hidden meanings and messages directly responding to certain entries. This is primarily where the series would incorporate many ARG elements, but Marble Hornets often plays fast and loose with how it allows the audience to interact and have an effect on the story itself, especially after Season 1. Regardless, entries 10 through 14 all have response videos from To The Ark, and this efficiently shakes things up by revealing that Jay and the audience's understanding of what happened in the past is far more limited than they thought. For instance, entry 10 features footage with no audio, but then To The Ark's response, Operator, has that missing audio. And entry 13 after sees Jay's first appearance on camera, and To The Ark's response, Exit, reveals that they have footage of Jay during that same day. Beyond just enhancing the vibes, To The Ark represents how the internet's many taken for granted features can find new life as mediums to tell a narrative, fleshing out a world almost effortlessly, and making Marble Hornets that much more unique. Speaking of, this is also where the series starts to make some strides in separating itself from the creepypasta. For starters, the creature at the center, the Slender Man, gets a new name, the Operator. A much better name in my opinion. And second, Marble Hornets gets its official iconic image, a circle with an X in the middle. It's really simple in design, but very creepy. There's also a bunch of different meanings for it, but like, you don't have to really worry about that, it just is creepy. Part of what I think is special about this stretch of videos is that this is where we start to see the beginnings of the creators forging their own identity with what they want their series to be about and where to take it. And that's no more apparent than entry 14. Entry 14 begins with footage of a door and the operator opening it. After walking past the camera, Alex wakes up and checks the door, as if he didn't see what should have been there in his room already. Afterwards, we cut to black, and Jay notes that a long time of nothing passes before smash cutting to
Hey Tim.
Oh, hey. Jay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that there's evidence that Alex has been physically harmed from being harassed by the operator, Jay decides to start actively investigating where Alex has gone. Entries 15 through 23 mark another big shift in the story, as we now get entries that take place in the present day, starting with entry 15, Interview with Tim. This section is one of my absolute favorites in the entire series, because it's where the story starts to really dig into how far-reaching the effects of the operator have gotten, even farther than just a random channel making obtuse and creepy videos. Entry after entry, there's either a shocking swerve, a new clue gathered, a reveal that twists everything on its head, or all three. And nowhere is this better done than in entry 19. Prior to this entry, Jay has had quite a tumultuous journey. He started with getting in touch and interviewing one of the former actors, the aforementioned Tim, and that didn't end up going anywhere. And then he gets some spooks as he was checking out an abandoned house thanks to an anonymous tip, where he experiences weird noises, finds a bloody sink, among other concerning items, and has a coughing fit. And then he finds footage of himself that he absolutely doesn't remember ever happening. And then when he goes back to the house in case he missed something, he gets attacked and chased out by a guy in a mask.
Alex? Alex?
And that's not even mentioning that To The Ark revealed that they were in the house when Jay was first there. When To The Ark responds later calling out Jay for hiding something from his audience, he is forced to reveal that he has been exhibiting the most notable Alex-related habit of recording himself constantly, and that he didn't mention it because he didn't think it was necessary. Until To The Ark, presumably, made it necessary. Making the protagonist, our POV, show that he's not above omitting certain truths or truly divulging his current status is a great way to shake up an investigative narrative, especially one entirely hosted on the internet. While Jay's reasoning isn't necessarily bad, it serves as a reminder that the characters are not at the whims of the audience, that they have their own autonomy, and that Jay is royally screwed. This is why entry 19 is probably my favorite entry in the season. It raises the stakes in such a cool and effortless way, and that's insane to me. Afterwards, Jay goes over what he found at the house on the first visit, only to find most of what he found missing, finds more footage with him in it doing stuff he doesn't remember, and then eventually finds a tape out in the wild. This leads to entry 22, which is effectively the last of the Marble Hornets student film footage where Alex seemingly loses the last crew member he had to the terrors haunting him and effectively decides to end the production for good. This entry is insanely creepy, but I wanted to give a special shout out to DeLodge for his monologue. While a lot of the acting in the series can come off as amateurish, this is probably one of the best acting in this entire season. It's very final and to the point in how it wraps up the terrible saga of Alex Crayley's Marble Hornets, which, to be honest, probably wasn't even going to be that great.
I'm leaving this house. I thought I would be safer here by running away. But everything's just gotten worse. I'm going back to my home. And I'm burning these things. All of them.
However, we're not done yet. The final stretch of season 1 is nothing short of horrifying. After two To The Ark responses, Jay, in a last-ditch effort to finally get some answers, returns to the house. Despite going during the day, where you'd think it wouldn't be as scary, we see a brief moment of visual distortion, and then find the previously bloodied sink completely clean. And then the masked man shows up. Jay begins chasing him around the house, only to find himself teleporting around the different rooms and watching as day quickly turns into night right in front of him. This is one of the more chaotic entries in the series, and while the coordination for how the teleporting works is amazing, I find that it can be a bit disorienting if you don't realize what's going on. Eventually, Jay's teleported to the same place as entry 22, and eventually comes face to face with the operator in the present day. The last thing the camera ever recorded is this silent 2-second shot of it, just watching. This, to me, is the climax of Marble Hornets Season 1. What started as just trying to figure out what had happened in the past eventually became a cautionary tale of how obsessing over it can drag people down with it, trapping its victims in an unrelenting nightmare they have no refuge from. Whatever had happened on Alex and his damned student film has not only exploded into the present, but has now latched itself onto the last possible person it could, the only one who was either naive enough or dumb enough to unintentionally invite it when he made a YouTube channel about it. The build up to it is just as gripping, because the season's biggest strength is how it was able to take advantage of what the internet is to foreshadow it. Take the Marble Hornets Twitter, for example. It's different now due to various reasons, but back then Jay would tweet out multiple times that he would take frequent breaks due to some sudden fatigue, or he'd realize that he had been watching tapes non-stop for hours at a time. Beyond foreshadowing, this was a great way to notify people when To The Ark would upload, another element that fleshed out the world of the story almost effortlessly and believably, and also explored the unique storytelling ability the internet has. After getting pwned by the operator's elite gamer skills, Jay decides to finally quit while he's still alive and just stop. However, To The Ark hacks the main channel, and the threat of another attack causes Jay to flee his apartment, which is later burnt down.
Shannon? And you can take a look behind me. This is the most relaxed we've seen this scene since we've been here. The original firefighters that were here have all left, and they've all been replaced by...
The finale of Season 1, Entry 26, sees Jay attempt to leave it all behind for real this time, to leave the state and never involve himself with anything related to marbles or hornets.
So I think that this is for the best. So this is going to be the last entry that I'll be posting.
until he gets a mysterious package with a tape inside. Turns out someone easily tracked Jay's credit history at the hotels he's been hopping around. The tape itself is revealed to be recorded from the present day, where we see Amy, Alex's girlfriend, find one of the cameras that was used on the Marble Hornets set back in 2006. She eventually asks Alex, who's just chilling on the couch, about it, and as Alex tells her to put it back,
Fine.
chaos and static ensue as Alex and Amy flee the house, and this final shot of the operator is, perhaps unanimously, the best shot of the season. With proof that Alex is still active and the haunting seemingly not stopping, Jay once again saddles up and gets back on that gloomy trail to find Alex, but not before signing off to his audience. While entry 19 is my personal favorite for how much it shakes up the status quo, I think objectively, the best entry in the season is the last one. The creators finally nail how the Slender Man should appear on video, as a specter that invades and poisons the familiar environments we all know without warning. Amy's screaming of "what is that?" cements the creature is not of the natural order, as assumed by Jay and Alex before, and that none is safe from its grasp. Truly, this was the birth of the internet's boogeyman. So yeah, that was season 1. Admittedly, like the rest of the series thereafter, it's shown its age as more time has passed. The acting isn't the best a majority of the time, the actions of certain characters don't exactly line up with our understanding of logic and common sense, and what was creepy back then might not be as creepy now, especially since it was during the time where the found footage genre was still fertile with possibility and potential. But, in my opinion, what makes Marble Hornets still a juggernaut of horror is ever present in its first outing. It grounds the reality of the world into what's familiar, perverts it through a monster that has no motivation nor any way of communicating with it, and utilizes the internet itself to tell a narrative that can not only make you believe it takes place in the real world, but demonstrates that the horror genre has no scary entryway. Troy Wagner, Joseph DeLodge, and later, Tim Sutton, prove that if you're creative enough, you can even make the most casual person get goosebumps out of a tall guy in a business suit just standing there. Menacingly. And that, in my opinion, is what makes season 1 iconic and timeless. Like pasta.